Two people wandering around the tracks of Europe looking for a podcast that suits their needs. Oli Meggitt and Martin Southall are those two people. With the ability to chat shit about RC cars for less than an hour with their bare hands. The Bench Chassis Podcast, the podcast with no name. Except for that one.
Hello and welcome back. It's time for another episode of the Bench Chassis On-Road Podcast.
Do you reckon they've missed us? Well, it doesn't matter anyway. It feels like it's been a bit of a quiet period actually on the tracks at the moment, particularly in on-road racing. I guess partly due to the Worlds being cancelled. And we'll probably talk more about the replacement Worlds on a later podcast as well. And in fact, this episode was actually going to be our review of that race. So that's not happening now.
Nope, but that's not going to stop us. Whilst people unfortunately didn't get to go to China, the tracks around Europe and the UK have started to get busy now, with everybody beginning their preparations for summer outdoor racing.
Yeah, and I guess with that in mind, I suppose it's worth us doing a bit of a look ahead to the summer racing scene and the UK summer racing scene in particular. The biggest part of that is the on-road nationals, the BRCA Championship in the UK. So I think it's right we probably do a bit of a preview of that.
Absolutely, and we wanted to bring a guest in on this one, and so who better to talk about the series than the man who's taken over the leadership of it this year. That is Richard Moore Harris, the BRCA 1/10th Electric Section Chairman.
Indeed. So let's jump straight into it then. This is the Bench Chassis Podcast. It's episode 6. Let's find out who's going to bend a chassis this summer.
This is the Bench Chassis Podcast. Let's bring on a guest, shall we?
Okay, so here we are. We are back. Welcome to Richard Moore Harris. He is here with us now, live.
Hi, Richard. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hi, Ollie. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, all good here. Thank you. Obviously now stepping into the role of BRCA section chairman for the touring car section. But before we talk about that part, let's kind of go back and learn a bit more about you. What's your kind of background in RC? How did you get started? What's the history behind it?
Right. My history with RC is I moved into a house that was one street away from the Bedworth RC track. And one Sunday I heard a weird beeping. I thought, what's that beeping? So I took a walk with my child and came across this track where there were lots of people racing around and looked like they were enjoying themselves. So I thought, I'm going to get into this. So I went home straight away, eBay, bought a load of trash, went back a few weeks later to be told, you didn't want to buy that, you didn't want to buy that, you didn't want to buy that. What you should have done is ask people at the local club for advice on what to buy, and we'd have give you the advice. So basically it cost me probably to get into the sport, it probably cost me double what it should have done, because I bought a load of trash to start with. I then bought my first car was a TC4, I think it was, TC4. I bought a load of second-hand gear, a radio off one of the club members, and I got into it that way. And that was, how long ago was that? Probably 19 years ago. So not a massive amount of time, but and that's how I got into it. I enjoyed it that much that I have not taken a break in those 19 years. I think I've raced every year, but mainly at my local club, which was Bedworth. Which, a bit of history of Bedworth, we lost the track 8 years ago, and during that time we were already looking for a new track. I found 2 disused tennis courts that were really badly overgrown and everything else. Took a week off work, and a team of from the club and volunteers all came down on odd days to help out and clear it all. And now we have the current Bedworth track, which everybody likes, but unfortunately we didn't get a national this year. But hey, you win some, you lose some.
Just actually, while you're talking about the old Bedworth track, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but when I messaged you about appearing on the podcast, so we obviously don't talk much on Facebook Messenger, right? Which is interesting, because the last time we communicated was the 10th of April, 2017. And at the time, it was to say thank you to Richard Mulharris over here, because it was our first time at Bedworth. My boy was very young then, and he went home to go and get me a set of plastic fold-up steps. Didn't ask, he just went off and come home, and he brought back these steps, and I said, thank you very much for the steps, really, really appreciate it. So it's fine, fella. He needed something, he would have struggled with being blocked out on a full rostrum. Yeah, thank you, he loves his RC. Good to see young lads outdoors racing than playing on game consoles. And then here we are sitting on the podcast all these years later on. But, that was our first interaction between the pair of us. And meaningful.
That's my way. I've helped quite a few people over the years. I mean, even young Frankie Fletcher, when Billy was a Schumacher driver, he put a message out asking if anybody had got a spare car so his lad could get involved. So I lent him a spare car, and then I heard that it was Frankie's birthday coming up. So I actually gifted Frankie my spare car, which got him into his racing, and look where he is and where he's probably going to be going. Sorry, Billy, but he will be beating you in a few years.
Already is.
So it's possibly a little bit down to be for donating a car, but that's what I normally do. I get my use out of my cars. Rather than sell them on, I would rather gift them to an up-and-coming racer. I've done it at our club a few years. My next one will be gifted probably later on this year to another young member of Bedworth. That's the way I do it. Awesome. I'm Mr. Helpful.
So all through your time in RC, you've just been racing on road and kind of focused around the Bedworth area. So just touring cars, or dabbled in anything else as well?
I dabbled in off-road for one season at the old Coventry track at Baginton Airport. Yeah, not for me. Unfortunately, 3D racing isn't for me. I prefer on-road. I am a hardened on-road racer because every winter, yes, I have cleared snow off the track and I have raced in the snow. So this season's been no different. I mean, at Bedworth, we've had an average of 35 races at every single winter series round, which for an outdoor club is pretty impressive with the weather of the UK. So yeah, mainly at Bedworth. I did a few nationals many years ago, Ada, Eastbourne, Cotswolds, but just lately I've not really raced nationals, but I'm going to be visiting a lot of tracks this year, supporting the nationals, obviously.
Well, seems a very interesting point to ask the obvious question then. Richard, why did you decide to stand for chairman?
Right, okay. So why did I decide to stand for chairman? Well, it got quite late in the year, actually, last year. And I don't think at that point there was anybody that was going to stand.
Nope.
So I said to Jordan Norwood, the outgoing chairman, who was obviously a member of Bedworth, I'll do it, Jordan. People need a championship. So I will stand. And I've obviously ran Bedworth as well. I have been chairman of Bedworth. I was chairman of Bedworth for about 4 or 5 years. And then Dale Burr took over from me. So I know how a club runs. How a national runs completely different. It's challenging already. We've not even got to the first event. And yes, I can see that it's going to be challenging. But we live and learn. I didn't expect it to be like it is already. But these are broad shoulders, and my work role in work deals with a lot of things that people shouldn't really deal with. So I'm up for the challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, you get the silly things like, I can't find this on the website. Can you direct me to it? The BRCA website, and I'll be honest and brutal, isn't the best website out there. Mm-hmm. You want to try looking at the back end, guys. The guys that are watching this now, you want to try dealing with the back end of the website. It's more difficult than finding the info on the front end of the website.
Oh, I've seen it.
But yeah, and you can mess other sections up. That is, yeah. But yeah. The main reason was I put myself forward for the chairman because I think people need to see somebody that is willing to put themselves out. I mean, I'm going to be there on the Sunday of every event. I probably won't be there on the Saturday because I'll tell you now, I am not taking any funds from the BRCA at all for doing what I'm doing this year, because I'm doing it because I want to do it, not because I want to be paid to do it. I'm doing it because I want to do it, and it's for the racers. So I will put that on record, and I've gone on record with the committee and said that. Now I'm going public and saying it. I'm not taking anything out of it. So my traveling, anything that costs is down to me. I'm doing it because I want to do it, guys. Okay.
Yeah, that's admirable, and that basically just follows on from what we've done for the last few years as well. I can honestly say, hand on heart, Jordan, myself, and pretty much the whole committee. Actually, none of us ever took a penny out of it. We could have. We never claimed a penny once.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's $27.50 the entry fee. I think that's reasonable. So I'm shocked at the numbers, to be fair, of the frontie, because
we'll get into that. We'll get into that in a bit.
Okay. You can ask anything.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of just pick up. You mentioned there, obviously, you've been involved in running Bedworth, and you said you're the chairman there for a period of time as well, and obviously there's quite a difference, as you called out there, between running a club and running club races and running those things and running sort of large events like nationals, and you touched on a few things that sort of jump out already. So what's kind of really I guess sort of struck you so far, or what's made you, is there anything before we even got anywhere near the first national, we're still a month away from it as we would kind of record this now, what's the sort of things that you maybe didn't anticipate kind of being there as those sort of hurdles and the differences between kind of running a club and doing that stuff day to day and thinking about like a nationals or a big race?
Obviously, the drivers. Okay, so your entrance. I know most people that race at Bedworth on a personal level. National races, I know their names, don't know the people. So you've got to learn how to handle the way people think, if you know what I mean. And that sometimes is a challenge. It is a challenge. Like some people need, how do you put it politely, mummy cuddling. So they need the hand holding all the way through a process. Others, they're just hardened veterans and crack on with it. I've had several tickets about the website, and if you actually spent 5 minutes to look yourself, you would find the answer. But I know previous committees have had issues where members have asked what a rule is. Well, there is a rule book. It is downloadable. Go and investigate it yourself before you ask somebody that could be dealing with something else, if you know what I mean. So some of your time's taken up with trivial stuff that shouldn't be taken up with. So I don't know.
Have you learnt the rule book yet?
Some of it. We've got certain issues at the moment, which you're probably aware of. With,
I am.
Fronty Speedo. I'm not going to mention any manufacturers, but there is a specific Speedo that is causing massive issues. There is a firmware that is going to be homologated before the 26th of this month, because the current ones that are on the list do not allow 17.5k limit. I think it's XR 4.0, 4.05 GS, I think it is, which allows 17.5. That has been put forward and will be going on the list before the 26th, because the current ones that are on there for that specific Speedo do not allow the 17.5, which also has another issue, but I don't think it will be an issue outdoors. The power draw will be completely different from racing tight tracks where you need to punch the power and steer at the same time. Indoor is completely different to outdoor. So
4.405 and higher.
Yeah.
And I suppose that kind of touches on maybe a different aspect of the role as well, kind of comparing, running a club and club race and things like that, where largely you've kind of got control, and if something happens on the day you can react to it, decide what you need to decide and keep things going, whereas and I think all of us kind of from our experience of being part of the committee in various roles over time, the role of the committee isn't really to make that many decisions. It's to actually just implement that set of rules that already exist there, and kind of that's what we're stuck with, and that's what we've got to make work.
It's the red tape that you can't cut through, basically. So yeah, it's the wheat from the chaff. But at the end of the day, the rule book states we cannot add a capacitor to the ESC, but it doesn't state, and I go on quote, it doesn't state you can't add one to your receiver. So there will be a workaround. Let's put it that way. There will be a workaround.
Do you remember our conversation at the BRCA now, Richard? At the beginning of it, I said, "Are you sure you know what you're getting into here?" And
I do. And yes.
And smashing through the red tape isn't quite as the enthusiasm seems to have been beaten a little bit since.
My enthusiasm is still there. Let me just say that. I've actually ordered. People want to see the BRCA events to be made something spectacular. Spectacular costs money. Okay, so let's go down that route just for a second, and look at race numbers, fees, and then end of season trophies and expenses, etc. The clubs get 80% of the pool for that meeting. There's not a lot left over to make this fantastic, spectacular event. So I've ordered a couple of sale banners that we can carry around with us and put at the track, so that you've got BRCA National Series. Apart from that, it will basically be as it was last year, because what we need to do is we need to build it up steadily rather than do it in one hit. We've already, as a committee, know that possibly we'll be running at a loss this year due to trophies and a FDR checker that we've purchased and tyre additive and everything else. So yeah, but you can't keep doing that every year on year. So because at the end of the day, that float of whatever's in the pot will disappear, and then what do you do? So
yeah, and that was always one of my thoughts, and I'll go on record. I've said it before. I think things like putting the entry fee in the rule book is a massive mistake, to be honest, because you kind of put in the cart before the horse. And you need to work out what sort of event do we want, what's it going to cost to run that, and then get to all the sums at the end and go, right, now what entry fee do we need to charge to make this financially viable? Because you touched on there things like, I mean, again, from my perspective, there's costs in there that I think are, I'll be honest, are stupid. Like the amount of trophies that have to be given out at every event. Was it 3 trophies for every single final? And no other race in the planet does that. And all they do, go home and get chucked in the bin again. I've found out I cleared out a room and just threw away a load of trophies. I'm like, well, what do I do with them? Yes, I appreciate they're like junior races and things that mean stuff too. But then you've got that sort of cost base you're trying to work with all the time.
Ollie, you've just hit the nail on the head. I personally think that the juniors find a trophy and something that they can go home and show their mum and dad or whatever.
Yeah.
Is far more, it speaks far more in volume than giving, say, I don't know, Chris Granger or Elliot Harper a trophy, because let's be honest, they win trophies all the time, and it's just yourself. It's just another one in the garage on a shelf in a cardboard box. And
I'm racing the Nationals. If I get third in the C final, I'll be honest, I don't really want a trophy for that.
No.
Yeah,
that's where the loss is.
For me, that's the way. That's like a waste of 10 quid that could have gone to the track to help improve the track, or could have gone to the committee to improve on the events.
And that might be something we take forward, because let's be honest, it's the track gets 80%, okay, of the intake for that event, but some of that money goes on their trophies. Yep. So when you look at the 80%, so say they get 1,800 quid, they're down to probably 1,400 because they've had to spend £400 on trophies. So, and really, like you say, okay, so I'll go on air now. Do racers really want the trophies?
Yeah.
Well, with the changes to the junior categories, I suppose, at least now, because we used to always have to do 2. There was under 17s and under 13s, and then last year it was normalised. It's now just juniors, which helps. I've always been of the opinion that just do the bloody juniors.
Yeah,
I know it's
Yeah.
contentious. I have it with my own committee indoors as well. Is I would rather not do all the 1, 2, 3 for the B and the C and the D. But some people like them. I get that. That's fair enough. I dislike
Yeah.
spending the money on them for most of them to go in the recycling afterwards. I would rather the money at the tracks were using to improve their facilities.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of money, trophies. People seem to forget how much it costs. And we'll all be acutely aware here. There is like 300 to 400 quid in trophies.
Let's be honest, and that's only going to get worse with the current situation with fuel, obviously delivery of items to shops, and material costs. It's only going to go north. It's not going to come down anytime soon. So maybe it's something we have to think about.
Yeah. Well, that seems like a good little pace for a pause then. Stay with us. We'll be back in a second.
We'll be right back.
This is the Ben Chassis Podcast. An hour of your life you're not going to get back.
So you mentioned earlier on that you haven't been to nationals for a good few years now. So obviously one of the questions I think that people want to know is how do you know what's going on, and how do you know the right decisions to make, I guess, going forwards, and what's your plan to kind of get more involved? You said you're going to be basically obviously at all the nationals this year, at least for the Sunday elements anyway.
Yeah, so I've not been to nationals for quite some time. Do I know what goes on at nationals? Yeah, I follow the national circuit. I might not be there, but I look at the results. I see who the top drivers are. I see what the results are. I'm interested, mate, to be honest. I like watching the juniors and see how they're improving year on year. I mentioned earlier, little Frankie Fletcher, fantastic little racer. There was a few years ago, young Parker coming on nicely. But yeah.
So I guess maybe on the same token, by not being part of the nationals, maybe that gives you a fresh look to kind of come into this with as well.
I'm a fresh set of eyes. I'm just a sponge, I suppose. I want to soak up the atmosphere of the national. I want to make sure that everybody that goes there is there enjoying themselves and not just there because they're sponsored and they need the results to get this, that, and the other. It's supposed to be an enjoyable day for everybody, not just the select few. We all know, okay. There's issues about motors and speedos, etc., and nobody wants it to be a chasing the best stuff war, because we all know who the top racers are. You're never ever going to beat those top racers, because it's not always about this battery, that motor, this speedo.
What?
It's about
what?
it's about
really
having consistent driving. You could put me in a national, okay. I'm probably, I think on the PB list at Bedworth at the moment, I'm the 6th fastest car in 17.5 around Bedworth track with 23 in 308, I think, which is just behind Michael Johnson and not far off Andy Murray and all that lot. So yeah, I'm a quick race around Bedworth, but in other tracks I'm not. But you've got to take into account these top racers don't just do the one national. They go there and they practice for weeks. They learn the lines, they learn where they can gain time. It's not all about I need a fast motor. It's about your driving style, being smooth, being consistent lap after lap after lap. So chasing this top motor, which gives you probably 1/10 of a second a lap quicker over 5 minutes, you're never going to beat the top guys. So
what, all the gear and no idea isn't actually a thing then?
You're asking the right person, because I
got everything right.
I've got all the gear and I have no idea. I mean, I spoke with Elliot Harper on a committee meeting not long ago, and I mentioned this digital ride gauge. It's fantastic, but every time you touch the chassis, it gives a different reading. So yeah, but yeah.
And I guess you touched on a really important point there as well, the fact that you get, I guess, for the nationals typically, and I haven't looked at the entry list, so I don't know if this is the case, but I'm assuming it's similar at least this year, that you'll get people who will support essentially their local round and do that one, and that will be, I don't know, 20% of the drivers will just do that one off, And then you'll get those that are doing, well, I'll do all of the ones. I live in the south, so I'll do all the ones in the south. I'll do 3 of those. Or I'm living in the Midlands, I'll do the 3 that are closest to me there. And then you've got the drivers who are going to go, no, I'm doing the full championship series.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's 5 rounds. There's Halifax, Stafford, Cotswolds, Ada,
West London and Ada.
And West London. So we got
5.
3 really in the southish, West London, Ada and Cotswolds. And then you've got the Midlands, Stafford, and then North Halifax. Now, I'll talk about Bedworth. Bedworth never got around. Why? Because I think most people that vote for Stafford would vote for Bedworth because they want at least 1 round in the Midlands. But in technicality, that would cancel that vote out because you're voting for both tracks. So the spread for me is about right how it is. I had a call off one of the southern tracks to ask why they hadn't got so many votes. Now that's not for me to say, but let's ask the drivers, and I will be doing that during this season. Why is it you don't particularly want to go to certain tracks? What could they do to improve for future events?
Yes, I suppose worth noting for those that don't know, for our national series drivers who raced in the championship in the previous year and did, I think, enough the counting round, so what it was 3 out of 5 last year, then they get a vote in choosing the tracks for the next season. And then I think the committee then get 1 or 2 votes to kind of try and balance that out of the geography.
We choose 2 tracks. So the three top tracks are voted on by the drivers, and then we choose 2 tracks. Now, this year in particular, we chose 2 tracks because how can I put it? You can't have 2 tracks in the Midlands, right? I abstained from a vote because I have connections with Bedworth,
and you're the chairman,
but then,
so you can't vote.
And I'm the chairman, and I can't vote.
Yep.
But obviously Bedworth was fairly high up in the listing. It just fell short by a couple of votes to Stafford.
I think it was 1 vote, wasn't it, actually, to be even? So by 2 to actually win a round.
So we could have had 2 in the Midlands, but is that fair then to the southern tracks that have got to travel? You have to base it on travel time, and it's only 3 rounds to count. So like you said, Ollie, perhaps you'll see Ada, West London and Cotswolds, mainly of your southern guys. Your hardcore few will then travel to your Stafford and your Halifax, but they're limiting themselves to they've got to get 3 decent rounds to get up the pecking order.
Is there also, though, an argument that says actually it doesn't matter about geographic spread, and if this is a national series, we want to be going to the 5 best tracks in the country, and if that means they're all within 20 minutes of each other because they're the 5 best,
that would be utopia.
The national championship.
Yeah, that would be my dream. I mean, let's be honest. Stonehaven, for instance. Let's mention Stonehaven. It is a long way, a really long way. Do they have the facilities? I believe there was a GP there a number of years ago, and a lot of people enjoyed it. And they, for some reason, people don't vote for it because of the distance. But like you said, Ollie, if it's one of the best tracks to go to and it can accommodate, why don't we go there?
Peter Eagles was a strong proponent for that on the committee as well last year, and we were exploring an opportunity of doing something with it this year. But obviously, things changed, so that didn't happen. But voting's always been a problem. I think it's worth talking about here. I've always disliked the system and the way we use it, and the problem is it's catch-22. Stafford do really well with their voting numbers because they probably put up the most national races. So if you look at, there were some figures I think we pulled out last year or something like that, but a lot of the races that do the national scene come from the Stafford area and race at Stafford.
Yeah.
So automatically you actually get a lot of the northern votes, which is quite interesting because there aren't actually a lot of northern tracks that you don't get as many from the south migrating up to the north. They just won't go up there as far as Halifax if they're all the way down on the south coast. I mean, it's only 5 hours, but
obviously I'm chairman of the BRCA section, and I could see as the votes were coming in, and I was very surprised at my local track, Bedworth, how the votes were going. because when you actually spoke to racers, it might be the smallest track on the circuit, but they all loved it. But then we didn't get around. But yeah, you just don't know how the vote's going to go. How can we change it?
So while we're buried in this mire of track selection, that it probably goes back to the go. So, what's it been like since taking the reins? Then, is it what you expected?
Is it what I expected? Yes and no. I knew what I was stepping into, and I said that at the AGM. I know the AGM, to be honest, is poorly supported by racers. I mean, how many? I think there was only about 26 in the room at the AGM. When you think that there's a potential of 110 people that race the national, and only a quarter of those turn up at an AGM to vote on the rules and whatever happens for next season, that disappoints me. But taking the reins, like I said before, I've got broad shoulders. I can take quite a lot of crap before I feel offended. But I'm here to iron out what I can and try and make the transition for anybody new coming into the committee when my time is done, when my time is served, a better place to be. Because let's be honest, you said yourself, Martin, when you took over on the committee, it was here's the crap, deal with it.
Yeah, it was a mess. We didn't have anything. Hopefully, what we handed you over was better documentation wise and giving you a head start.
We're trying to change things and use technology a bit. You'll already see that a digital briefing's gone out, not to everybody's liking, I'll be honest. And yes, not everything is mentioned in that briefing, but in no way does that digital brief replace the brief that will happen on the Sunday morning, replace the rules for the section. So if it's not in the brief, it doesn't say, for instance, I got asked about, I mentioned it's got to be a hard case lipo, but I didn't mention in the brief that it needs to be on the battery list. Well, the battery list is the battery list. That rule is always going to be there because it's in our rules. It needs to be on the list. So
quibbling over semantics. Imagine that.
Yeah. So it is what it is. I'm trying. That's all I'll say. I'm trying to make people's lives a little bit easier. Let's be honest. You lot are going to get bored standing in front of a rostrum for 15, 20 minutes listening to me waffle on. If I can put it in a piece of paper, digitally sent out to every racer that's going to be at that event, I can then brief over that brief and you can get back to your kit and crack on with your day.
And I guess the behind the scenes bit, the bit that people aren't ever going to see, you touched on some of this earlier as well, is the touring car section is one of 10 or 11 or 12 sections within the BRCA, and then that means by being chairman you get to go to or get invited to and can delegate obviously the meeting on to go to like the actual executive meetings with the BRC exec team as well. What's it kind of been like working with them? Is that something you didn't? Is that how different is that to what you expected? And how's that been?
Okay. So far I've only been to one exec. That was before Christmas, and that was basically an introduction to the exec and what they do and who to go to for this, that, and the other. So we had a little bit of a shindig about what everybody's role within the exec was for us. The exec are there for any issues that we have. We can go to those behind the scenes and say, look, we've got this problem, we need a little bit of assistance, blah blah blah, and they will offer that assistance. But my personal opinion is we should deal with most of the stuff ourselves. It's our section. We should run it how we want to run our section, and not be reliant on the exec. So most issues, and I'm hoping, guys,
sounds nice.
Guys, listen. I'm hoping there will be no issues this year. I don't want to have to deal with you in the ways that have been people in the past. I mean, we're all there to enjoy the day. Yes, we want results. Yes, we want to be BRCA National Champion. But let's do it fairly and cleanly.
Yeah. And I guess you know there are some limiting factors in that. Like you say, you want to be able to stand on our own 2 feet and run the section how you want to run it. But you've got things like the BRCA website, which you've got to use for things like that, and then that that adds that layer of pain and stuff as well. And we saw that like with the booking in system where the website sort of fell over, and that's something that's totally outside of your control.
It is outside my control. Unfortunately, I believe, and I'll go on record, I don't think the bandwidth of the website is capable of coping with such vast input in the first few minutes. What we should really try and do is say, we'll open up 10, we do a waiting list. And there are certain websites that they know when it happens, like when sites have sales on, you enter a queue so that it stops the booking system, the buying system from crashing. So you would get in, say, I don't know, you're number 110 in the queue, and then when number 1 is booked in, you're then 109 in the queue. So you slowly move up the queue. You're not all trying to bombard the PayPal payment system at the same time. And then, I mean, I could show you the back end. There are numerous payments that failed, and then there's one person in particular. There was 3 failed payments, and then 1 payment went through because they're constantly trying to pay. Yeah. And I think that's an add-on they could possibly look into, the BRCA in the background. But yeah, something does need doing, because it can't keep doing that.
Yeah.
Year on year, it happens every year.
Well, I think that's been really interesting to kind of talk about you stepping into the role. I think it's worth us looking ahead now and talking about hopefully the positive things and the things we've got to look forward to. So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about what's coming up and what to look forward to.
Okay.
Be right back.
This is the Bent Chassis Podcast, and now let's talk about something else.
So then, looking ahead, I guess the biggest change for the National, well, there's 2 big changes for the National Series this year. And again, all decided by the AGM, so not decided by you personally or even the committee. But going back to 1-day races, Saturday reverting to being a full practice day, and then 1 day of actual timed competition, if you like, and the merging of what we had separately, where we had a F1 and a front wheel drive championship separate to the touring car championship. Now it's all 4 classes kind of running together on 1 day. So quite a lot of changes there that people are going to see quite obviously in terms of the racing as well. What do you expect? What's your thoughts for looking ahead? What do you expect from the season?
From the season, I expect to see 17.5 pretty much full every event. It's the biggest class. We've already filled it on several of the rounds. Modified, again, limited numbers. We've only got 30 per round. I believe that's going to probably fill up. Fronty races.
It's not what we probably thought looking from the outside anyway.
No, so you've got 30 at each round, and I think the first round, currently there are 19 booked in, so we're 1 away from 2 full heats. It's looking like we may have to move 10 of those to 17.5, being the more popular class. F1, we stated that they would need a minimum of 6 races per round to get a heat. It looks like every single round they have 6, possibly not at Ada at the moment, but the F1 guys are so laid back they don't need to fight for their places, if you know what I mean. They're a select few. It's been voiced that maybe we need to look at rehoming the F1 to open up another 10 spots for another class.
Facebook?
My opinion on that, they're entitled to race. Obviously, they are a hardcore few. I think it's like I say, that there is a hardcore 6 that do nearly every round, but that's only 6. There's 4.
Is 6 races a national championship? Really, is the question, isn't it?
And
he just asked it.
That to me, you've just asked that question. Is racing 6 of your mates technically a national series? Perhaps not. We are as a committee in the background looking at tagging them onto another section so they don't lose that national championship, but it would actually free up 10 spots within the on-road national series. Now, looking at fronty racing a number of years ago was massive, super popular, brilliant class. What's impacted? Perhaps the entry fee from last year, the funds included in that, the track funds included in that entry fee, some slight rule changes, the way that I don't know what's impacted it. Some races have gone off road, some have given up. So how do we get those numbers back? We perhaps don't. We may have to look at changing that class as well. I don't know what the answer will be.
Well, I think some of them is the double class. Is a lot of those races they raced both classes. Yeah, so they did one series of touring, and the other series they'd be there doing their F1 or front wheel drive.
And I mean, looking at that, I think I went out on Facebook and people were asking me, can they book into 2 classes this year? Yes, you can, but please, because of the limited numbers, I said, do your preferential class, and then if there are spaces towards the booking in closing, which I believe is the 12th of April, which is this weekend coming, booking in closes for round 1, then we will look at moving 10 spaces to 17.5. So I think there's only 1 or 2 that are booked into 2 classes.
Because I guess that's the difficult thing. You want to make that call at the right time, and Martin, I know this from organising the race as well, that you don't want to end up with dragging on too long, and then the racers who are on the moment on the waiting list for 17.5 make other plans, or you end up with 21 people entered into front wheel drive, and then you're like, well, how do I move? You're taking 9 entries away from the club as well, then potentially as well.
We are on one for a stickler for the closing date is the 12th, so it will close on the 12th. If we have 21 races, unfortunately, we can't move 9 into another class, so you would have 21 races booked in. That is the unfortunate way that the system works. So I'm hoping to be able to move 10 into 17.5, but I would like to see 11 people book into front wheel drive, and nice. fill that class. But in reality, I'm not so sure that will happen. I mean, if they were going to book in, we are now 5 days. We are Tuesday night, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So 5 days away from booking in closing.
Oh, now they know we recorded this on Tuesday, not Monday night.
Sorry.
Well, I was busy last night.
So, I mean, classes is difficult. Do we go back to a 2-day national? Obviously, last year didn't work because of the cost, I think, and that's when the numbers dropped off from Fronty and et cetera. I believe 1 round was cancelled due to numbers not being there.
That was correct.
So we had to, obviously, the AGM voted for going back to the 1 day, but then that limits you. People were saying, well, can we not fit 12 heats in? Well, yes, you can. But then you have to look at the welfare of the racer and how long the day is and how far the little Johnny and his dad have got to travel back north to get up for school the following day. And so,
or south if you're going to Halifax,
or south, or south if you're from Halifax and you go to Ada,
exactly, and reciprocally, 5 hours,
6 hour drive with a stop, so. You finish at, I mean, even if you finish at 6 o'clock in the evening and the trophies are done and dusted, a 6 hour drive, poor little Johnny's going to bed at gone midnight. And that's the reality that people go, but we're not all in a position where we can take Monday off work to recover from the weekend. We're not all in a position where little Johnny can stay at home and do his own work at home and have a sickie day from school. So, behind the scenes, we have looked at how many viable heats we can fit and finish at a realistic time. Maybe we start earlier. Maybe you knock a practice round on the head. But there's lots of things that we need to look at if people want to get more heats within that day. And then you've always got, well, they do so many heats indoors, they do so many here, they do so many there, but you've got to look at travelling time for little Johnny. My job is health and safety at work, so my priority would be, you fall asleep at the wheel driving home, not good.
Will you be bringing your clipboard to the Nationals then?
I've got to do my checks before the meeting, so the
high vis is coming out as well.
The risk assessments are going to be done. The risk
enough.
Assessments have to be done for each round. So,
and that's always the tough thing. And any of us who are race organisers know that balance. It's great when the series and the events are popular and you've got the races there, but then you get to that point where it becomes too popular and you're trying to figure out what to do. And you don't, in the case of the Nationals, you've got it, I think, prescribed in the rule book exactly how many rounds we've got to have as well, which doesn't allow you any flexibility to say, well, let's have one less qualifier, one less final to get more people racing. And then on the other side, you've got to go, well, what is a realistic time to start and finish a day at? And as you say, you don't want to be finishing at 6 o'clock, because that's, you've got to give people the opportunity to have a sensible drive home. And events everywhere sort of recognise that, and you've got to make a call as to when you can actually finish on the last day. And as you say, if people have got the opportunity to keep thinking they can take Mondays off, well, then why didn't we want to take a Saturday off and go back and do a 2-day race that way? I'd rather have time to if I'm taking time off, I'd rather have it for racing than
track time is what it's all about. Track time is what it's all about, and maximising that track time within the time period. But it's difficult. It's a no-win situation at the moment, because obviously we're limited to one day.
Why don't you have all the answers? Facebook is out there. Facebook is watching.
Why don't I have all the answers?
Yeah. Okay. Well, on that note, let's maybe we'll just move on, shall we? We're just going to glide into something else. Okay. So I think it's important to discuss this one as well now. The funding committee from last year, and what's happened with the money that was made from the funding committee last year, and where we are with that now.
Right. Okay. So the funding committee have contacted the chair of the funding committee has contacted all the clubs that put in for a share of the pot, which was £7,000. 2 clubs have already received their funds due to work that's been carried out already. I was sent the invoices off to Jim Spencer to pay them, so hopefully, touch wood, touch my desk, they have received that payment. One being Stafford, one being Cotswolds. I believe Ada has already put posts on Facebook of their grinding the track surface to make it smoother, and I believe there's a small fence going up to try and stop dust being blown onto the track. So they will be getting their funds as soon as they send us the nod that the work's been complete, because we're not just dishing out willy-nilly. They've got to complete the work first, and then the cash will be then reimbursed into their designated account. So it is all going to track improvements, and we're.
So I guess, like, thinking back to obviously the intention behind it was to be able to allocate and collect some funds through the year by putting the entry fees up a little bit, and then I think the bigger plan was, well, maybe it gives the opportunity to get a track resurfaced every couple of years. With the entry numbers, that wasn't, didn't get to that point, but I think still important to know there's £7,000 to be reinvested into clubs is actually a huge amount of money to go back to. So that's a really decent amount to go across each of the tracks each, and make improvements that they can to both the track themselves and I guess other infrastructure around it too.
Well, it's making a more pleasant place to be for the racer. Ada say that the track was bumpy. They've ground it. They're trying to make it better for your modified racer, where a bump is not a bump, it's Mount Everest at the speeds those cars go. So they are trying their best to improve their facilities with the funds that have been available. Yet, like you said, unfortunately, the amount that was predicted wasn't the amount that we ended up with, but still £7,000 is a decent pot. It's a decent pot to share out.
So funds, we might as well stay in this arena now, of course, because you've already mentioned this earlier on. You buy the additive, you buy the trophies. The rules painful in the book because it means you're limited by the fees and stuff like that. It doesn't have the flexibility. So knowing the fact that the additive did stay in, and I remember passing over, we discussed the figures at the AGM, and I think I warned then if the additive stayed in, it would potentially be a loss this year because there wasn't enough money in it at 27.50. And rightly so, like you said, they've stayed honourable to the clubs. The clubs are still taking a majority of the money, so it will be the section that takes the hit, not the racers, not the clubs, which is good. But what other opportunities are there for maybe bringing on sponsors? And have you been speaking to sponsors about perhaps bannering up around the series and helping with some of that revenue loss?
As of now, we did ask. I believe Steph, the vice chair, was tasked with approaching people. Okay. But the main answer you get back is, "What are we getting out of it?"
Yeah, that's fair.
And that is a fair comment. What are they getting out of it? Because let's be brutally honest, you're advertising at a track to a very, very closed audience. They already know the manufacturers out there. So putting up a banner, charging them, say, I don't know, £200 a banner to sponsor at that event, what are they actually getting out of it? They're not reaching out to any new clientele, so to speak. The only places where you probably would is places like West London, for instance. It's in a public park. The track's in a public park where you would get foot traffic passing that track, and I don't know, little Johnny and his dad walking the dog. Oh, what's going on over there? They go across, they see a banner, I don't know, MB Models, Schumacher, Zen Racing, blah, blah, blah. Other manufacturers are available. And they go on their website and they perhaps buy something. Then that's brilliant. But in general, like Ada, for instance, that's a little bit out of the way. Not really get foot traffic past that. Halifax, again. No, Stafford, not really. They're all, you're not going to get what I call foot traffic going by it and seeing it. But what I do intend to do and try is contacting local press just to get a little snippet in a newspaper to say this event's happening at this location, and see if it encourages people to go down. Because let's be honest, National Series is great, but what makes a club survive? It's not the National Series. Yeah. It is not the National Series. It is your hardened club racer that supports that club all year round. So if we could get the interest from locals to that track, to go along, see what the crack is, speak to racers, and maybe join at Bedworth, for instance. I'm going to use Bedworth as an example because that's my local club. We've got a junior rookie class, and at the moment it is our biggest class at our track. New kids on the block come in to race with Banzai FTXs, Tamiya TT01s, and they're absolutely loving it. Their first 3 races, they don't need BRCA license, and I think we give them first 2 races for free. They don't pay, because let's be honest, this sport isn't cheap. Okay, we know that this sport isn't cheap when you get into it big time. So if you could create a class at club level that designates a chassis, a motor, and a speedo, and even brushed, and keep the costs down. We've got a class where you're not allowed to use tyre additive, you're not allowed to use tyre warmers. It keeps your costs down. It gives them track time. It gets them used to the cars. It gets them used to maintaining the car, driving the car, all fun with their mates. And that's what the future of the sport is, and we'll support your club.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, isn't it? And I think it's interesting to kind of hear you as the section chairman recognising that it's it's not, the national series isn't what's going to drive new people into the sport. It's an event that might take place somewhere that gets people spotting the sport. But you're right, you've got to get them coming back to that track the following week when there's a club which is actually then accessible for them to talk to people and understand what's actually going on, rather than here's the national. Actually, everyone's quite focused on the 1 millimeter shim and everything.
That's my aim. If a national event at a track can interest 5 new members to join that track, that's 5 new members they didn't have before that national event was there. And then those 5 members then can go out into the community, back to school, say, oh, I raced at the Cotswolds this weekend. It was absolutely brilliant. Come along, get some off the games console, get some outdoors, get some doing it. To me, that's the way forward, and that's what we need to push. It's just, yes, the national series financially supports the clubs, but it's only a small amount. It is a very, 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 very tiny percentage of what a club needs to survive. I mean, rent for a track is only going to go up in the next few years. So that 80% of their funds probably won't even cover the rent on most tracks now. Nope. So they need that support, and that's the way I look at it. If I can, like I say, get five new members at every national for a club, then that's 5 new people they didn't have before the national.
It is
awesome.
So that's been really insightful to hear all about your history and why you're doing this role and what it means to you and what your plan is going forward. I've got one final question, which is one that we didn't even allude to in any of the stuff we said to you beforehand. So here it is, and hopefully you're ready for this one.
He looks nervous.
It's still the national championship. Who's going to win?
Who's going to win? Oh, that's a good question. Everybody.
Good answer.
Everybody. Right, okay, so you have your select few. Modified races, you know who you are going to be racing. You've got your likes of Kyle. You've got your likes of Alex Thurston. You've got Elliot. Sorry, Chris, but you're getting on a bit now, Mr. Granger. You're
most experienced TAC driver on the planet.
Yeah, he's a bit like Alonso, though, isn't he? He's
sort of. I wouldn't mind being as quick at him for like 2 minutes.
He's got it. But Chris, have you still got the passion for it? You know what I mean? It's like these young uns. I mean, some of the kids that are coming up. There's young Dan Robbins, very quick racer. Sub 20, I believe. He's not even 20 yet.
He's 18.
So he's 18. So Dan Robbins, then 17 and a half. Well, I think Mr. Murray is booked into 17 and a half.
I think he's on the reserve list at the moment. Cough, cough. Would like a space. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Okay,
so I'll probably put my neck on the line and say, Mr. Murray, don't let me down. For 17 and a half, although Mr. Fletcher is very, very quick. Mr. Finley, yeah, it's going to be your select few again, isn't it? Let's be honest. Front wheel drive, don't know. And then obviously one of the brothers for the F1. It's going to be Luke, isn't it? Let's be honest. Luke is the man to beat in F1. Again, James, he's knocking on a bit now, Mr. Greener. But yeah, I don't know. But everybody's a winner. Let's be honest. If you have a good time on the track and you go home with smiles on your face, you're a winner. So
you've got to be in it to win it.
And you've got to be in it to win it. But don't spend thousands trying to catch them people in front of you, because it won't happen.
Oh.
So yeah, my prediction probably. All right, it's Zach or Murray. Yeah, it's Oli or Kyle. Yeah, let's go with that.
Okay, all right. I think on that note then, I think we're probably about time there. Everyone's probably getting bored with listening to us. Before me and Ollie do the wrap-up part, I just want to say thank you very much for joining us here tonight, Richard. Hopefully it wasn't
Not a problem.
too terrifying.
No, it's fine. Thank you very much for having me.
Any last words, last rites, a prayer perhaps?
Any last words? Remember, 26th of April, first round. Have fun. I'll see you there.
Thank you very much. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Speak to you soon.
Yep.
This is the Bent Chassis Podcast. Let's have a bit more from Martin and I.
What, leave this? This is the wrap up. I'm recording. I'm keeping this now. All right. Well, a big thank you to Richard for joining us. Really insightful to hear his thoughts on the season ahead and find out what he wants to do this year.
Yeah, and I guess, of course, thanks to the rest of the BRCA committee as well for all the work they kind of do in organising the race series, and of course to all the clubs, everyone that's involved in the championship as well. Both Martin and I are going to be at the races throughout the year, so it'll be interesting for us to sort of see how things go once we actually get down to the racing itself.
Yes, but there's still a few weeks to go until the series actually gets started at the end of April, so we're going to see if we can check in with a driver or two before that race as well.
Yeah, so that's more for us to look forward to later on. Hopefully everyone's enjoyed this episode. As always, thanks very much for all your comments, and when you've come up to Martin or I in the pits or commented on Facebook and YouTube, we really appreciate it. Please share the podcast links around so we can get more people listening to it as well. But yeah, I think that's it for the moment.
And yeah, that is it for now. Thank you very much for listening. Join us next time to find out who else has bent a chassis. It won't have been me, though. Thank you very much. Cheers.
See you next time.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Fast laps, clean lines, that's how we go. Thanks for tuning in to the Bench SC on Road Podcast Show.